Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rise Up with Ivy and Calla.
Where spirituality meets practicality. Hello, and I'm Ivy.
And I'm Calla.
Week 2 of
Week 2,
season
yes.
2.
We are here. We are doing this.
So what's funny and what you've missed is, so from last season to this season, we wanted to add a little bit more flair,
Spice.
give it a little intro, give it a little exit. But that also means we have to learn what we're doing. And so we are on take 3. And then we forgot what we were going to say.
We don't have to tell them all of that.
Why? Because I'm running it over and over in my head of what we should have done right the last time.
We're doing great.
We are.
Yes, we are.
But what is it we need to work on?
I think everybody, that's a tough one. Everybody sees differently. Everybody sees things differently. I see you, your personality, I see you different than what you may see yourself. And you see me also differently than what I may see myself.
But just like we were talking about starting our setup and, in the beginning, and we're on take 3, we're always, especially, I think even more so since I've stepped into more of a spiritual journey, I find that we're so focused on fixing us, like we're broken, just like we had to fix our intro, so we're on take 3. It wasn't a silly mistake. Well, with the two of us, it usually is, but typically those are failures, or it's ingrained in us that those are failures. At what point do we stop being a failure?
Why do we have to see it as failing? Why can't we just be, take 2,
Okay.
Take 3,
I know you've heard the term shadow work.
Yes.
And that's how many people, think about it, close your eyes for a minute.
I'm closing my eyes.
Picture all the people you've come across throughout the spiritual journey, from the Reiki studio, the shop, from different events you've been to. How many people do you know that aren't working on shadow?
A lot of people I know don't know what that means.
Okay. Well, then let's go to the group that does.
Okay.
How many? So we will definitely get to what is shadow work. But for those who do, isn't it constantly hearing?
Fixing myself and being better, and I can do this better, and always having that happy-go-lucky, spirit-filled life.
But then you're constantly trying to fix it from this trauma that you've experienced, and this happened. I mean, I feel like, and I know it's a balance. So I guess maybe what we need to do is talk about what shadow work is.
Okay.
So what is shadow work, Calla?
So we did Google it.
We did, just because we have our own thoughts.
Right. Prior to me being on this spiritual path, shadow work was something that I just stayed away from, because to me, in my head, it was dark and you're not supposed to deal in the shadows. It was evil. Shadow work was evil in my head.
I can understand that. That's my dark side.
Yes. And learning more about shadow work, I live more in the shadows than
So I guess before we tell them what you found, I think let's go ahead and explain what we each determined, because I think it's really interesting. Has a common core like math, but has that common thread, but it is a little bit different.
It to me, shadow work is exposing the parts of you that you don't let other people see on a regular. Not exposing, acknowledging the parts of you that you don't let people see on a regular basis, because it's sinful, because it's dark, because it's shameful. However way you were brought up in what?
So I have a question.
Okay.
To me, that sounds like desires.
Well, and that's why I said, now that I know what shadow work is, I live more in the shadows than I do because I have learned to accept.
Oh,
Oh.
that's not nice.
But
But you're like Bob, click on, like Bob moment flash. That's why I love these conversations. But don't you get okay? No, wrong person to ask. I'm not talking just sexual, but it's right or sensual. But don't you get tired of living in the desires and want to live in the successes, accomplishments, the what is the word I'm trying to come up
I
with?
don't know, because your first sentence, don't I get tired of living in desires, doesn't make sense to me at all. Sorry.
So, okay, can I well, you've got something that you've been in the works without telling people what it is, because that's your business. But instead of desiring that to be, wouldn't you just like to have it be?
Well, and that's what I think it's definitely a balancing act. You know, I don't put all of my business out there for everybody to see, but it's still something that I enjoy, something that yeah, you know, the average person may frown upon or look
right,
but it's still something that I enjoy.
That makes sense.
So why do I need to, you know, that is me accepting my shadow self, accepting parts of me that the average person doesn't. You're thinking.
No, I'm not. I'm actually, this is why I love these conversations, because even though we may say this is what we're going to talk about, we really don't go in deep. So we're here to learn as well.
Right.
And so I think, again, common thread, different thought process. So I looked at shadow work as encountering those parts of myself that I may not like as much, and I see them as a negative, and you use it as a positive. Okay. I'm going to use one very simple that is not something that I've been looking at: procrastination. Why am I struggling with procrastination? That to me is a shadow side. Is it that as much as I say I don't want to journal and dump because I have so much anxiety, I actually thrive for it. So I create a panic. So this is the kind of stuff. But at what point can you just say, hey, it's because that's part of who you are. It's okay. Instead of it being, you're procrastinating, look at da 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 da, it becomes a fault.
Yeah, that's the common
thread.
That is the common thread between
our thought process, right. But it's how do you, and I am aware, like, you know, there's some people have the enchantress. I will say, to me, that was what I considered a shadow side of myself that I never allowed to come out because it was bad.
It was sinful.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what I was told, but yeah, it just was, you know, you go back to me being a child, my mom never talked about this stuff.
Okay.
It was taboo.
Now, growing up, you were brought up Catholic, correct?
So I was baptized Catholic. My parents divorced when I was 6. Of course, in Catholicism at that time, you had to have your marriage annulled in order to, if you were getting a divorce, in order to stay.
Gotcha.
So I was then at a United Methodist church. I've been to an Episcopal church. I've been to a Baptist church. I've been to many, many different ones. But I think it has to do with, you know, we talk about this sometimes. I have different names for parts. I mean, even that side comes from somewhere. I don't look at that as my fault. I look at it as my mom's fault. Seriously, I mean, legitimately. So that's part of who I am. Big deal. I don't look at that as a trauma. And as you all can hear, I am going to disappear for just a moment. And
Thank you. Sorry, we have a dog and it's making noise. Hi.
And hi. And that's why I have cats. I don't have a dog. But, I think there's a fine line when you're dealing with people who deal with anxiety and depression, like a lot of us do. You really need to, be careful at how much in the shadows. Because even though you look at it as, I'm living in this world of desires, which is a way to manifest, some people working on that shadow work can look at it as, look what I lack. Look what I'm failing at. Because we grow up in a world that there were passes and fails. So, when you don't do this or you don't do that. So how do you balance that? When you're at that crossroads of spirituality, because what were we saying earlier? I know spiritual people, the purpose is we are trying to blend the human and the soul.
Right.
But how do we blend the human and soul without exhausting the human?
Yes. How do we always try and because there's extremes, and I don't even want to say good and bad. There's extremes on both ends.
Absolutely.
There's definitely extremes on both ends. And so it is a balancing act that you have to do or have to learn.
Right.
You have to, I don't know. That's definitely a tough one.
It is, and I'm sure if you and I have gone through cycles, I'm sure there's plenty of other people that are going through these cycles at some point or ask the same type of questions. Because, we made it through this. Okay. So just be prepared. You're going to have a little bit more traumas, old stuff that you're going to release.
Why does it always have to be traumas?
Exactly.
People, the saying when you inherit traumas. Why can't I inherit blessings? That's
exactly what I'm talking about. And my question from the get-go, at what point can we say, thanks, Grams, for the life you've lived that has allowed me? Why am I consistently having to heal not only myself and those who came before and those who come after? How come I just can't heal, which does the same thing? Why do I always have to be looking at, well, my grandma or my grandpa on my dad's side did this, which made my dad do that, which makes me, are we giving ourselves excuses? Reasonings? I mean, I think there's a point in time that you have to find a way to know yourself and make sure you surround yourself with people who you've actually allowed to show that authentic self.
Yeah. Why do we always perceive ourselves as being broken?
Yeah, right. I'm not broken. Maybe if you have a bone broke at some point, that's broken. I wrote something a long time ago, and I'll put it up in the comments on Facebook, but it was called Cracked But Not Broken. Yeah, I may have a crack here and there, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be broken.
Right.
That's where our faith, our spirituality, I think we complicate things so much sometimes. Maybe you put it up on Facebook or what, we put it up on Facebook, but it was about, you don't need all the candles and you don't need all the statuary. You need you and your mindset, because divine's already there.
Right.
You have to go, your actions, so that's what you have to do. But we overcomplicate it. And,
whether it's religion, even for those people who say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, whether it's spirituality, because, me being on this path and learning and seeing different people's beliefs, You know, they have all this different stuff. And you know, when I'm teaching about energy healing, one of the first things I say is the only thing that you need is yourself and divine. I said all the rest of that stuff, you know, the pendulums, the crystals, what the cards, whatever, those are just tools.
Absolutely.
Those are not necessary for you to have a relationship, for you to be divine. None of that stuff is necessary.
Right. And I think that's where we are so hard on ourselves.
Mm.
So I really hope that you all will, as we're talking and going through this, will please put some feedback in there, because I think every one of us has worked through certain aspects.
Right.
And we could use a tribe of people to throw some other ideas in, because we are pretty rough on ourselves when it comes to things we're doing. I recently went through a situation, and you know, I think where it really bothered me is, you know, how many times do we say like attracts like?
Yes. Yes.
And that's
And
great when it's with good
when
people.
when it's a good thing, that's awesome. But then when you I'll throw my situation in when I am face to face, and I know the word narcissist has been brought up a lot over the past couple of years.
It's a buzzword.
But yes, but I am face to face with this dude who is a complete total narcissist. My question is that me? You know, if like attracts like, why am I seeing all of that in them? Is that me?
Absolutely. And that's where my question is. So I understand that like attracts like. And at what point can we stop comparing ourselves to everybody?
Right.
Hey, I like this part of her, and her knowledge and her insight. Maybe what I need to do is learn that for myself. And I think there's a weird space. And like, the way we see things, we're all in our own reality. Which makes things even harder.
Yes, it
because
complicates
the way, again, the way I understand something and the way you perceive it are two different things.
Right. And I remember me asking you if I was a narcissist.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are the farthest thing from narcissistic.
Well,
that
because you're always saying, well, like attracts like, and I always hear that like attracts like, and I'm surrounded by all these narcissistic SOBs, and if like attracts like, why?
You know, going on that, I will say this. I find it really interesting. You know, they say empaths and narcissists, you know, the narcissist searches out the empath. I don't think there's a damn person out there that says, let me see where there's those empaths that I can find. There might be, but that's not, and no empath is me like, let's see if I can hook up with a really good narcissist today. I truly believe, and I could be completely wrong, and tomorrow my thought process may change, is at the core of their being, they're sensitives. They're human souls, and their experiences, okay, hypothetical.
Okay.
You and I, we are twin sisters because we look so much alike.
There we go.
Brought up in the same household, same family. We went through the same thing. And we had some issues growing up. I decide I don't want to live that life, and I go this way. You decide I'm pissed off at the world. Screw that. That shouldn't have happened. I deserve better. And take a more narcissistic role because of your anger and your hurts, where the other person is taking a different role and absorbing people's energy. So is there any difference to who they are? It's just the way they processed. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's my thought.
Y'all let me know.
Because have you ever looked and said, today I'm going to go try to find a date with a narcissist?
No.
Do you think narcissists said, let me go see if I can find an empath? Now, I think there are some people that say, let me see what I can get for when I stand or who I can manipulate. There are those.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, the things that happened to us that we experienced and our mindset at that point, good or bad, shaped us to who we are at this moment. So our perception is our reality. So if you chose one way to go, does that make you wrong? I think it means you're just as sensitive as the others. It just channels differently. Thoughts? Because I feel like I just went.
No, I hear you, and it's definitely something. That is definitely something that I'm dealing with. That I am. That is part of is that part of my shadow self. Another aspect that that I am still sorting through.
Or is it that every single one of us human beings are both narcissistic and empathic? Because can you talk down to someone and belittle someone if you're pissed off enough?
Yes.
Okay. So do you not have narcissistic tendencies?
Mm-hmm.
I know I can. But on a daily basis, is that who I've chosen to be and embraced to be? Or does that come out in specific moments?
So is that a mask?
Or is that a fault? Or are we back at the crossroads of balance? When you merge it. And I really wish Sai was in this conversation right now, because one of the questions that we were really trying to ask, I think would be a good one, because I love how he'll think things through.
Well, go ahead and ask the question. Maybe Sai will comment when he's listening.
Yes. So we've already asked Sai, if you're out there, at what point in spirituality we are supposed to be blending the human side of us and the soul side of us, where we don't look at it as two different entities. We are one healed, complete entity. How do you not exhaust the human part of us
while trying to complete the soul?
Yeah. And of course we're looking this way, and I guess I shouldn't be doing that because he's not here. I do think it's taking time. So you and I had Reiki how many weeks ago?
4.
Okay.
4.
So when you were at the shop and you would have a client, how often would you tell them to have Reiki?
A lot more.
I think that's how we have to figure out a way to not burn out the human, trying to have a soul experience, or a soul trying to have a human experience. Ooh, philosophical day today.
So, as far as the shadow, we got off track slightly in reference to shadow work. When you are about to dive into the shadows, what does it mean to heal your shadow self or to work on your shadow self? What does that mean to you?
For me, usually it's child's work. It's healing parts of my life that have caused me to be a little child in my adult life. Does that make sense? Or to have me act like I am. For example, we've talked about I had sexual abuse growing up. And so when I went into my shadow side, it was wondering why I would blow up. This was years ago, at the drop of a hat, or get mad and look at it as, if you would say, this was, before, if somebody would say, you really need to work on this. Why did I take that so offensively?
Mm-hmm.
That, and get to the root cause of what was causing, quote unquote, the fault or the issue. So, and I'm going to keep saying that, not because it is a fault or an issue, but in my mind, I'm trying to get out of that brain set that shadow is
wrong. It's,
right.
Yeah.
I'm away from it's dark.
Right.
But now I've turned to its fault. It's where I'm lacking, where I'm screwing up.
how do we start the process of healing one's shadow self?
I think everybody's different.
Can you give a step to take? For me,
Go ahead.
When the first step is acknowledging.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't that like
I think acknowledging is the very first step. That is something that you need to dive into more. When you're curious, when you want to understand the why.
If I'm going to be authentic
Mhm.
and true, I'm going to say doing exactly what we're doing right now and talking through these things. We have this fortunate way of bringing our experiences
Right.
into what we are projecting outward. So it's talking about it and normalizing it. We talk about it and normalize that procrastination. Everybody has some degree of it. Maybe it's not the fact of why do you procrastinate. It's the fact that you just do.
Right.
Don't go down that rabbit hole of that. But for me, part of it is to normalize talking about those things with those people closest to me. I know even with Sai, I'll be like, look, I need some guidance. I need something. This has been on my mind for the last few days or week. I can't get past this. I need some guidance. It doesn't mean I take all what he has to say or all you have to say, but I'll listen to that to be able to help formulate my own thought process.
Do you write stuff down?
I would love to tell you I do, but I would be lying. I tell other people to write stuff down. There are moments. The other day I was drawing and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh. And then I saw these synchronicities coming into play. So I started writing the synchronicities so I wouldn't forget them.
Right.
And the reason why I did that was because Sai was at home at the time and I wanted to tell him about it. So I needed to write it down so I wouldn't forget it. It wasn't for myself. Had it been, I probably wouldn't have written it down.
Mm-hmm.
Do you write things down?
No, I don't journal. I could.
Do you tell others to?
Of course, you should journal. Everybody should. You should write stuff down.
How many journals do you have that you have bought to start?
I probably have about 15 on my bookshelf right now, in between 10 to 15.
And you know what? I ruined just enough of, and I'm going to say ruined because the first 3 or 4 pages, I am doodling and it's going to be titled this. And I've got my, it's my sigil work on there. And I get my first page writing out. This journal is going to be about this. And as far as it goes.
Yeah. You've probably gotten farther than I have.
So to me, self-care, why is it that we aren't doing the work? Why is it because we got exhausted in the human experience trying to live the soul experience? Just like we talked about last week, we had all these human experiences happening to us that we had to take that time out of our life.
Right.
But I think the question needs to be, at what point can we stop beating ourselves up and just say, I love you.
I love me.
Yeah, meaning to yourself.
Yeah.
I was imagining me looking in the mirror.
Yeah, okay.
But at what point can we just say, you went through this. Yeah, you were an asshole. Sorry. But you were, not you.
Yes.
You don't have to go through all this forgiveness work and why were you an a-hole?
Mm-hmm.
You just need to be like, I don't need to do that again. If it does it again, then maybe you need to go a little further deeper. Because sometimes we're just having bad days.
Right.
Ultimately, I think we have to learn how to give ourselves grace. But again, easier said than done.
It is definitely tough, especially you have your core group of people who are obviously in the spiritual world and you see them a certain way and you see how they're living they're this bright light and, doing all these things and you're trying to live up to that.
Right. Right. And, you know, the only person that can bring us down is ourselves.
Mm. And it's with that bright light that you see, that is a mask of theirs, but you don't see it as a mask. You know,
You see,
yeah.
Facebook is the perfect example.
Right.
Everybody has a great life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you, you and I have had this conversation multiple times, though. Neither one of us really put a whole lot of stuff on our Facebook about troubles and things like that. We may say need some prayers, or we will share after we're going through
Mm-hmm.
it, not during. And is it really sharing for us, or is it sharing so other people can understand that, again, that same kind of thing we talked about a little bit ago. But what is authentic? I think you kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop in our earlier conversation.
What did I say?
She said to me something, and you'll have to reword or re-explain it. Something about who we are, our personality is who we want people to see us as.
Oh, okay. I was reading. Okay, hold on, because that's here. What was I reading? There it is. It closed. Hold up. It says our personality isn't who we actually are. It's who we believe ourselves to be.
Do you struggle with that one a little bit? I struggle with it.
I feel what I am portraying,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what people see me as is different than is it my personality? What they're seeing, is that considered my personality?
So yes, what they see is like your loving side. That is part of your personality. But you may not see yourself completely as that loving side, but that doesn't take away your personality, right? Like your loving side to you is innately ingrained in you, right? My bubbly goofiness, I don't say, well, today I am going to be a typical Aquarius and be walking this crazy path and awkward and detached. How can I do that? I wake up and I am who I am. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you wake up and say, let's talk work. Now I know we all have a work persona to some degree. Do you say, well, today I'm going to be like this at work so they think I'm like that?
No.
Or do you just be who you are?
You get me how I am.
So, what did they say?
Okay.
Many of us.
Our personality isn't who we actually are.
It's who
we believe ourselves to be.
I hope Vanessa Perry is on this because she is a therapist. I would love to have that clinical side thought, and she's holistic as well. So I hope she watches this because I think this is a really interesting topic because I believe I am who I am.
Well, okay. Well, think about your sign. Okay, I'm a Leo. Leos are the spotlight. Leos are confident. Leos are the beacons. You know,
Leos are passionate. Leos are sexual. Leos have strong desires.
Is that my personality? Huh. I don't know.
I love, for those who are watching this, I'm sure the dumbfounded mind messer upper has just really like shown. I don't know how to answer that because I feel like our personality is innately, but again, I have to keep reading those because
it keeps closing.
But again, I don't say The false self is essentially a performance that some of us call personality. Our personality isn't who we actually are. It is who we believe ourselves to be. So our personality is our false self.
Now, our false self is that mask that you put on.
But that's not a person. That would be different than our personality. If I am putting a mask on, now, wait a minute. To you, it could be my personality. But to me, I've just put a mask on. I don't know. All I can say is if you want more of this intense, crazy, mind-blown conversation, you need to join us every Wednesday for Rise Up with Ivy and Calla.
Yeah.
But legitimately, I think this is a conversation, and I can't wait because, you know, as we're starting to get close to that time of wrapping up, you know, I think these are the questions that we have so many great guests going to be on this season. These are the questions that I want to ask them.
Okay.
I think it's, you know, some of them who are out in the public eye in a grand way. I think this question is amazing. You know, what is your personality versus what is the facade? Ooh. Well, nothing like
on that note.
Yes, we're going to definitely end this day on a good one.
Yes, definitely. Am I going to see you again? Are we doing this again?
Like, ever?
Like, when's our next show, Ivy?
I just said it on Wednesdays. So, join us for Rise Up with Ivy and Calla,
where spirituality meets practicality.
On Wednesdays, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
We will be there.
Many blessings.
Bye-bye.